Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Nations Top 16 Superstars race that took place on Saturday at the Nürburgring GP track in the Zonda R. So this was quite an enjoyable combination, quite a high downforce car, but it still has some road car characteristics with a little bit of understeering there. You had to really drive this car very aggressively, so some parts of it suited my style, obviously the high downforce, some parts with the road car elements not so much, but our pace was actually pretty solid. You can see an absolutely stacked grid you're seeing through the grid, very fast drivers all the way through. For myself, obviously I did an okay lap, it wasn't anything special. I knew I could get a 48.9 to 49.0 at least, but unfortunately in this race, I think in the qualifying session we did a 49.2. Unfortunately, you're not seeing it on screen again because, again, I forgot to change the bitrate. I keep forgetting to do this. I am going to sort this out and make sure that we can record it with the live footage. But yeah, for this, we're going to go through the replay footage again. I will put the live stream live once this video has been live for a few days, so everyone's caught up with the condensed version. We'll put the live stream available for everyone to watch. So yeah, you can see the fastest Brit anyway in this race for qualifying. Let's see if we can get any sort of result. We're starting from P9. Out of the 15 cars, there was a disconnect. I think it was Rick that actually got disconnected in this race, and unfortunate for him, he would have been actually quite a contender for taking the win in this race. He had very good pace, so yeah, unfortunate for him. But for me, starting in P9, let's see how this race. We've got the replay camera in the bottom left hand corner as we start very far back. It's very strange how this race started. I don't know if it's slightly different because it's top 16 race, but it seemed like the grid started further back than some of the other races that we had done earlier in the day. Maybe because there's only 16 cars, it changes the positions of the cars. I'm not sure how the game works it out, but yeah, we're starting at P9 and it looks like we're going to start right on that. I said it during the live stream, we're going to probably start right on this final corner, which is not what you want because you're going to get a bit of sideways action as you get on the power, because that's the way Gran Turismo is. It's very awkward the way it starts. You can see, so the countdown is starting now. It's going to start right on the corner and we put the power down, just a little bit of rear action there, but just about get away with it as we head off over the start line to start this race starting from P9. So main aim into turn 1, do not wipe anyone out. Try to warm the tyres up, a brief little wiggle on the tyres there just to get a bit of heat in the fronts. Brake nice and early, try not to avoid anything. There's a lot of chaos going on in front of us. You saw that it looked like, I think it was Manuel Rodri did a bit of a late brake and dived into Baptiste at the front there. We'll take a look at that at the end of the video, because when I watched the actual Gran Turismo channels video, I don't think they picked up on it too much, but it was not Baptiste's fault. Very unfortunate for Baptiste. He was just minding his own business and got a 2-second penalty because I think it was Manuel Rodri outbraked himself and went into the side of his car. So yeah, quite frustrating for Baptiste obviously to pick up the penalty there. You're going to see now in front of us the blue car up ahead, which is driven by Baptiste, the Veloz driver. He's going to go over to the right hand side of the track where he's going to take his penalty, and we're going to go past. You saw the penalty there, and now keep an eye on the mirrors, and PMC dives up the inside there, dives around the outside. Now this, again, unfortunate for Baptiste, picks up a 1-second penalty with a bit of contact with PMC. Now, PCM, sorry. Now, it was a very difficult one, that. I think it was a bit optimistic for PCM to dive the way he did. He nearly wiped me out as well. It was a little bit optimistic, but then I don't know. I think they both were a mixture of not really at blame. It was a tricky one, but we'll take a look at that after finish this race anyway as well. As you see, Baptiste picked up another 1 second there, so unfortunate start to the race for Baptiste, and understandably quite annoyed, as we saw on the Gran Turismo's channel. That is why he was quite annoyed, because he picked up 2 penalties together. As we now follow in P8, we've gained the position, but Baptiste is obviously behind us, and Baptiste is going to be very fast. As we started the race on the medium tyres, like a lot of other drivers who started below P7 and stuff, into the pits to get rid of that harder tyre and get the softer tyre on for our next stint in this race. Now, the reason we did this was because the soft tyre was just so much faster than the medium tyres at this combination. It's a lot of slow corners, traction zones, some high speed areas as well. So the medium tyres were probably about just over 1 second the lap slower, probably more, and they weren't really durable either with it. So the majority of people off of their mediums straight onto the soft tyres. This is the way that majority of people would run this race in top split, was just the 1 lap on the medium tyre and then they'd do the double stint on the softs. There was some people doing the triple stint, which I actually didn't try out, and I think it might have worked if you did 1 lap on the mediums and then just went like 4-5-5 on the softer tyre, it could actually work because of the undercut and then always having the fresh soft tyres. With only a 3 second or just under 4 second pit lane loss, it definitely could have worked. It would have been interesting to try it out. I didn't really consider that, but looking at the pit lane loss, it was actually worth giving it a go as we follow behind P8 there now, just trying to keep reasonable pace while looking after the tyres. Now, one thing about this car was it was taking a lot of life out of the rear tyres, so we're trying to push, save a little bit of fuel. One thing I don't really like at the moment too much is saving fuel. I seem to be better when I'm just pushing and focusing. Obviously with the Fanatec, it's about I'm trying to just concentrate on one thing at a time because it's a bit different to the TGT. The TGT was easier to save fuel with. That is, an obvious fact because you had the dials that you could just quickly change. With the TGT, it's just a little bit more tricky. It's not hard by any means, but I've tended to just not worry too much about the fuel in this race. I just wanted to drive fairly cleanly, get to the end with a solid position, because the fact that we're in the top 16 race after just getting the Fanatec gear is something to be quite proud of. I'm really happy that we got there, and the fact that we're competing, this is the main thing. I'm just liking the fact that we're competing in this game again, and it's quite motivating to see the paces coming back on the game. We definitely have got the pace and the high downforce, and a car like this, which is a mixture of like high downforce and road cars, it's quite interesting that we still have the pace in this car. So yeah, really enjoying the game at the moment as we watch the replay cameras. You can see a bit of a gap developing between myself and Coque in front of us, who's following Manuel Rodri, the other Spanish driver. But I didn't want to, one thing I don't like doing is getting too close as well at some point, because I do struggle still in this game with being in the slipstream. It's definitely improving. I think the wheel does help, the Fanatec wheel for me, because you don't get that sense of understeer as much as you do with the TGT, with the extra vibration function that wheel has. So you tend to feel like you've got more grip, and I think it gives you a bit more confidence. It's probably a placebo effect, but I actually prefer driving in the dirty air with the Fanatec over the TGT. But you can see we're around 1.3 to 1.5 seconds behind Williams Coque, just picking up a little bit of slipstream, a little bit of dirty air, but nothing too drastic. As you see, PCM behind us, actually staying fairly close, PMC or whatever his name is, I always forget which way it is, but yeah, he's staying around 4 tenths behind, probably doing a lot of fuel saving because he's right in that draft zone. So yeah, I could have probably pushed a bit more and got myself into the slipstream for Williams Coque's car and did a bit more fuel saving, but like I said, I don't like being too close, so it was about weighing up what I prefer doing, and I was quite happy just to keep this distance like this and just drive it the way I wanted to drive it. As you see, with that Repsol livery, I quite like the Repsol livery on this car. Actually, I think it looked quite good. Some people didn't like it, but I quite liked it. As we go to start another lap, we're coming to the end of lap 3, I believe it is now, as we power out of the final corner, being very cautious on there. It was really easy to lose the rear on the curb if you went a little bit too aggressive, as the car either randomly understeers or then randomly oversteers. So we're going to fast forward the action a bit now, as it was fairly static as we follow behind the 2 Spanish drivers in front of us. It was fairly static racing, not much going on, because as you know, top 16 races are the best drivers in Europe, so there's not too many mistakes going on. People are just keeping it nice and sensible. They don't want to lose massive positions by going for something stupid as well, because the points are quite high in these races now. They're actually worthwhile being in them. So yeah, we're fast forwarding this action as we just keep it fairly static. The gap in front, you can see, is staying pretty much identical. We did manage to build the gap up to the car behind every now and then to about 7-8 tenths, which was probably, I should have probably tried to push a bit more at the start to get rid of the slipstream so we couldn't save as much fuel. But all that would have happened then I would have just got closer to P7 and 8 in front, and we wouldn't have actually been able to go anywhere, because it was very hard to overtake in these cars around here, as you can tell by people just sitting behind and saving fuel. The way you could overtake was if you had a tyre difference, or like fresher tyres versus old, or mediums versus softs. That's when the overtake opportunities were more likely to happen on this track with this combination. As you see now, we're at the start of lap 6, and you can see the gap still fairly static to the 2 cars in front of me. We've got the car behind probably doing a lot of fuel saving. We've got a bit of a gap behind that, and we've got 1 car right at the back that seems to be struggling quite a bit in this race. I don't think that driver expected to get in this race. Maybe he should have tried to enter the race after, or just didn't know this was a top 16 slot. Who knows? As we now follow behind through these twisting sections into the heavy braking of this hairpin. Again, the corner that you had to be quite careful on, that you didn't brake too late. It was very easy in this car with the amount of power it had to brake a little bit late and run wide there. But yeah, you had to square it off and be careful on the power because the rears did want to spin up, and then sometimes it would understeer. So quite a tricky car to drive around it, but I have to say I really did enjoy driving the Zonda R around this track. It felt actually really well, quite well balanced, and in my opinion, some people didn't like the physics of this car, but I have to say I really enjoyed driving it. I felt like Gran Turismo have done quite a good job with the Zonda R on this game. It actually felt pretty solid in terms of how it should behave. It's not a race car, it's a track day car. There is a difference, so it shouldn't have insane amounts of grip. It should just be like it is now. It's definitely, you're able to push it, but it can bite you, and that's what I quite liked about this car as we go through the chicane there, where you can take so much off the chicane. It's actually quite worrying how much of the track you can take off on that corner, especially after racing on iRacing just a few days ago in the Group 3, where you couldn't do anywhere near as much as on this game. So yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done something with that chicane for this on GT, because it's been like that since release. You can really cut. It's actually gone worse than it used to be at one point. I think you can actually cut more than you used to be able to now going through the second part of it. But you can see, again, we're going to fast forward as we see in front there's a penalty for one of the cars in front of us. There's a bit of a train beginning to form in front of ourselves. A Spider, I think that is, takes a penalty, and we don't manage to get past him because we made a slight mistake there. Unfortunately for myself, a little mistake cost me the chance to get past Spider before the pit stop phase. So now was the case of, do I pit on lap 7 or do I go with the lap longer? Now this was possibly a little bit of a tactical mistake, because if we see the cars that go in there, we've got Williams, Koke and PCM behind us going in the pits there. So they're into the pits, and myself stayed out. This, I believe, might have been a mistake because we're on quite worn soft tyres. We're going to lose a bit of pace, and if the cars in front start to battle as we go down the main straight, and we've got Adam there on the right hand side who's on fresh tyres, who obviously doesn't want to let us through, we have to lift and brake, and we're losing a bit more time there. So this is the type of thing that you can't predict when you're on a strategy. We're losing a little bit of time through having to wait here behind Adam. Obviously he's getting his tyres up to temperature, and then once he's sorted, he's going to pull away. But then look at the cars in front. It's just a long line of cars, and this is all going to lose us time. I think I really should have pitted on that lap there. I think I would have had a little bit less fuel than PCM, but I think what would have been the advantage was that, yeah, he might have jumped us, but I think I then would have been able to follow in his slipstream, do a little bit of fuel saving, push on them fresher tyres, and we could have jumped some of these cars that are in front of us now. But yeah, tactical mistakes happen in these races. You can't predict what's going to go on. My idea was have fresher tyres for the end of the race, when you might be able to overtake some people that hadn't run the medium tyres yet. So yeah, but then would we have jumped them medium tyres? That's the thing, you know, the people on the mediums. It's all down to luck of the day. With this at the moment, I don't think it's worked out quite well. You can see the traffic we've got in front of us. I think Francis went for the same strategy as myself as well. Not so bad for Francis, because you can see how much he's caught up behind us. I think he was about 3 seconds behind, and now he's almost in the slipstream. So you can see from that just how much time I've lost on this lap here, and it's actually benefited Francis because he had a gap in front of him. Not really benefited myself, because on the first sector we were going side by side with TRL Adam, and now you can see that there's a long line of cars in front of us. We're all going to go in the pits now, the cars that need to pit. One car picking up a penalty. It looks like SVDR, maybe from the chicane, cut the chicane a little bit. Half-second penalty for him. That's going to possibly knock him back a position. So we're into the pits. Fuel pretty similar to Manuel Rodri and SVDR, not too different there, as it looks like he was on the medium tyres, and we're now going on to the soft tyre to the end. So a lot of these drivers all the way to the end now on the soft tyre. We've all put the fuel in. You can see we didn't really lose that much time to the cars in front. Pretty similar fuel saving to them. But what you will notice that is PCM, who pitted that lap earlier. Look at the gains that he's done there. He's got massive gains as we're going side by side with Matthew on the right hand side. He's going to try and hold it around the outside. We should be able to hold this with the fresher soft tyres. I think his tyres are either a lap or two old. I'm not too sure how old they were, but we managed to get that position done there, keep that position. And you can see we've got a bit of a gap to the drivers in front now. We're about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds behind, but there is a penalty for SVDR there, so he's probably going to lose that position, I believe, maybe to Manuel Rodri. That'll be interesting if he manages to get back past. But yeah, you can see that the advantage of going in on that one lap earlier was massive. The undercut of on them fresh versus worn soft tyres was so high, and the fact that we were battling at the start of that lap on that the lap before we pitted, and then the train of cars, it's probably cost us about, I think it's cost us 3, maybe 4 seconds there. So an insane amount of time lost by just not pitting on that lap. And this is little things like this is just, sometimes they work for you, sometimes they go against you. For this race, it looked like it's gone against us slightly, but it was still in a solid position. We're in P10. Top 10 is always favourable in top 16 races, if you're still going to pick up over 300 points, because obviously the points are very high for these races. But yeah, if we can make up any positions towards the end of this race, it will be a benefit, as we're now just trying to get back used to these fresh soft tyres, not overdrive them, because we obviously want to have some tyres left towards the end of the race. It's a 15-lap race, quite a long race. We don't want to push overly aggressive and have nothing left for the last couple of laps in this race. As we come to the end of lap 9 now, we're going to fast forward the action again, as again it was fairly static, and you're going to see I started to gain a little bit of time on the cars in front, which was partly because they're battling away a little bit, and partly because my pace was actually quite good at this combination. I knew that if I was running in static, in no slipstream, and it was just running my own race, I knew I could run this very well. We did a very solid practice race finishing time that wasn't even perfect. But yeah, it's not quite come together for this. We ran basically as well as I physically could. You can see that when we're in clean air, I'm able to get back up to the rear of the cars in front. We're putting in purple sector there, so running quite nicely on this lap. We're back in the slipstream nearly though there, and then we're going to start picking up that dirty air again. But yeah, not bad pace at all. We're holding our own in this top 16 race. You can see we're actually starting to push a little bit away from Francis behind us there, while we've got a bit of clean air. We've managed to secure that gap so that there's no real opportunity for him to go for a dive in any of the corners. As we rejoin the race on lap 12, as we've got Spider, who has come out in front of us on the medium tyres, right in front of myself. So this has pretty much made my lock we were starting to gain a little bit of maneuverability, but now we're going to lose a lot of time. We've got Spider in front with them mediums that are going to take a few corners to warm up, so we're losing time the more we're behind them here now we've got to try and find a way past as soon as we can. It's not the easiest thing. Obviously we've got slightly worn tyres, they're still in pretty good condition, so the grip is there. We've just got to try and use it and find a way past. Now this track, like I say, isn't the easiest track to pass. However, there are possibilities when you've got the fresh, obviously better tyres. He's on the mediums, I'm on the softer compound, so I do have more grip, but you do lose a bit of grip with regards to traction areas and stuff like that when you're following another car. But you can see that Francis behind us has caught quite a bit up there, because we're now following the medium tyre runner, and the group of cars behind that have also caught up. So this is going to be quite an exciting finish to the race. Obviously it's only for P9. I wish we would have pitted earlier, because I think we would have possibly have got ourselves a P7 behind I think we would have been behind PCM, because I think he had better fuel saving. But I think we would have been able to battle with him to the end, because the pace was there. So slightly frustrated with my own strategy decision when I watched this back to see the race unfolded, and the advantage of pitting that lap earlier, because then you wouldn't be behind all this traffic, and traffic was important to be out of at this combination, because it was quite difficult to find any opportunities to overtake. You can see that we're getting closer. We're going to try and get very close. I took a very tight line into this final corner to try and get on the power as early as I can. So you can see now, decided we need to use some of that fuel up as we watch the replay camera, powering our way down into turn 1. Can we have a look down the inside? You see, I just give him the view that so he can see me in the mirror, that I'm really want to get past. You can see how close we are into the turning. Much tighter angle on the entry into that corner, on the exit, sorry, to give ourselves a better line into this corner. You can see I'm trying to make my car as visible as possible. We've got to try and find an opening to get past Spider, because this is holding me up. We've probably already lost around a second on the out lap when he came out, and now this lap, the longer it goes on, it could be at least another second. So you can see myself looking down the inside. Can we find a way past there? No, we're not able to get past there, and we're just not able to use the extra grip that these tyres have got at this stage. You should be doing low 1 minute 50s, and we're just not able to do them. We're in the 51 range. As you can see, having a look up the inside again, could have dived in, but I felt it was too risky. There was no point throwing your whole race away. Decided to back out of that and just try and find a different area of the track to get a nice solid exit from. as we work our way up into that really fast flowing chicane, chucking the car in nice and smooth. I did that, managed to get the exit quite nice. You can see the extra speed we're able to take up because we've got them slightly better tyres with the softer compound. Really late on the brakes there. Look how close we are to Spider's car. He's obviously struggling on the medium tyres, and this is why people avoided running the medium tyres for too long. As we get on the power nice and early there, this is going to give us a run up behind Spider. You can see following in his slipstream. Can we go for a move? Decided to have a little look, tuck back in, then go back down the left. I think Spider's just going to give this one up. Brakes a little bit early. We take the inside line, manage to hold the car on the apex through the chicane, and we take that position to get myself back up to P9. But just look at the amount of time we've lost to Manuel Rodri. I think we've lost over a second, and we were gaining on him anyway. So yeah, unfortunately you can see the lap times went down to 51s from low 50s, so probably around the second of the lap we've been losing there for 2 laps, which is frustrating because that's 2 seconds, which is enough to be right on the back of Manuel Rodri in SVDR. And this is why I say the pace was there, but you know, stuff doesn't always work out for yourself. We accept that. I'm sure we'll get a race in the top 16 when we do a little bit, and when we get a little bit more lock on, we can show the pace again in the future. But for this race, we're doing solid. We're in P9 now. We just got to try and keep this smooth to the end. We've got 2 laps to go. Let's try and keep it nice and smooth and see if we can gain on Manuel Rodri. That was my aim. Now see if I could get back into the slipstream, put a little bit of pressure on. You never know in these races. A little bit of pressure in the top 16 can make some people, you know, make mistakes. But I know that Manuel Rodri is a very good driver. I've known Manuel Rodri for a long time, since Project Cars day. He's a very solid driver. He's not going to make mistakes easily. But I will try my best to see if we can put some pressure on him. As we see SVDR coming under a lot of pressure from Manuel Rodri, and we can see there just in front of I think it's just in front of SVDR is PCM, who did that undercut. So you can see we're starting to gain back up, and even with all that traffic, we are gaining back up on PCM because he hasn't got any slipstream to work with in terms of saving fuel. Also, his tyres are a lap older. But there you see the advantage as the cars in front of us are battling side by side. Now, when I was watching this, I was thinking if they pick up penalties, we might be able to gain a couple of positions. You never know in these races, but let's see as they go side by side into the chicane. I'm just going to take this normal, try and get a nice solid exit. So early onto the apex there, bounce over the chicane as we've got the leaders into the pits. So I think for the 3rd stop, going for possibly a 3-stop race with mediums right at the end there. Now that strategy, like I said, could definitely work because you have very little pit lane loss. So if you're always pushing on them medium, on the softer tyres and building up a gap, it definitely could work. And that is possibly why they went for that strategy. As we now go into our final lap of this race of the top 16 superstars in P9, you can see that we're starting to put Manuel Rodri under a little bit more pressure. We're into the slipstream, trying to find a way if we can get past Manuel Rodri. It's not going to be easy. You can see that he's obviously getting the slipstream down the straights. We're all losing the aero. You can see SVDR defending very nicely to Manuel Rodri. But yeah, this is what I'm saying. This is all about little decisions that you make in tactics in these races, because the overall pace of everyone, I think that there was a few top 4 or 5 that were really fast paced. I don't think I could live with them. But other than that, I think the midfield pack was so even. There was hardly any difference in terms of race pace between any of us, and it was so close. Really enjoyable to be in these races. So I have to say, with everyone being so close in this, where tactics really do make a decision. As we see, we go tight in on the apex. We're trying our best to see if we can get as close as possible. A little bit of rear there, starting to lose the rear as we try and get on the power on that tight hairpin. As the rear is starting to struggle a little bit, you can see the rear tyre wear on the tyre telemetry is starting to wear a bit on the rears. That's going to cause us a bit of issues coming out of some of them slower corners as we chuck it into this left hand corner again, down to 2nd gear, early upshift into 3rd gear, just trying to get a good exit. You can see that we've managed to increase the gap to P10 significantly, quite a bit there, by the fact that we overtook Spider a few laps ago. So we gave ourselves quite a big gap to Spider. That really shows you how much lap time I was losing for them 2 laps. But yeah, we've managed to catch back up to this battle here. Pace was solid. We're not going. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get any position as Manuel Rodri on the throttle so early there, stepping the rear out as he's just trying to find a way past. But it's just so hard to do at this track and this combination. And we go down the main straight over the line. We pick up a P9. It could have been better. I feel like it should have been, but we still pick up some solid points. I think we end up with 322 points. It's not amazing, but it's better than what I'd done in some of my previous races. So pretty happy with that. It's top 16. The pace was good. Could have been much better, but we take a P9 and walk away pretty happy, really. I mean, the pace was there, but unfortunately a few tactical decisions didn't get us the result that we possibly could have done. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I thoroughly enjoyed being involved with that race. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed it. Let me know any comments in the comment section, and I'll see you all for more streams and videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.